Welcome back, America. I'm Betsy McCoy, filling in for Steve Malzberg, and joining us is Dr. Herbert London. He's the president of a think tank called the London Center for Policy Research. He's also a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute, and he's author of The Transformational Decade. Thank you so much for joining us, Herb.
Always a pleasure to be with you, Betsy. Thank you very much.
So in the opening of the show, I raised the issue that the president is going to be trying to push through some sort of gun control agreement with the UN, a diplomatic arrangement with Cuba, a climate change agreement with China, and of course, most dangerously, a nuclear arms arrangement with Iran. Will the US Senate be able to protect us from these very dangerous agreements?
Excuse me for interrupting. I was going to say the question is really whether the president considers this understanding with Iran to be a treaty or not. He does not use the word treaty. He continues to talk about an arrangement, an understanding, a change in perspective. But the word treaty is not employed because, of course, at that point, the Senate would have to intervene. So it's very interesting to see what will happen in these negotiations with Iran. But there is no doubt that the President of the United States has a very different view of foreign policy. His view is that the United States' involvement in foreign affairs over the last 30 years has had nothing but a negative effect on the world economy as well as world affairs. The consequence of that is for the United States to be seen as one nation among many. No different, not exceptional, not the real policeman in the world, but a nation just like every other. And in that sense, the United States has created international vacuums. Those vacuums will be filled. There is no such thing as a vacuum in nature, and they are being filled by our enemies. That is the problem that we are facing at the moment. That is the problem for the nation, and that's the problem for Obama's successor.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you next, because if the United States Senate does not ratify some sort of agreement with Iran, then whatever that agreement is, even if it holds water while Obama's in office, it's nothing as of the end of 2016, because it would disappear along with the president, right?
I think that's exactly right. However, this will be the president's legacy. The contours for an agreement with Iran have already been established. That is, there's discussion about fissile material that the Iranians will have. The question that's on the agenda at the moment is how many centrifuges will the Iranians be permitted to have? Is it 4,500? Is it 5,500? Is it 6,500? That's the issue. Now, if you have centrifuges, you will have enriched uranium. If you have enough enriched uranium, you will have fissile material. If you have fissile material, you will have nuclear weapons. So when the United States says we do not want an Iran with nuclear weapons, and in the next breath says, okay, how many centrifuges? These are mutually contradictory expressions. It is not possible to have centrifuges and not have nuclear weapons, or mutually contradictory expressions. It is not possible to have centrifuges and not have nuclear weapons. Or what will ultimately happen, I believe, is that the president will say, they have fissile material, but they haven't built a bomb. That is, they haven't weaponized their missiles. The consequence of that is he will get on TV with great fanfare and say, as a result of very skillful negotiation, we have prevented Iran from having nuclear weapons. Now, technically, that will be true. But what is also true is that within a month, a year, 6 months, I don't know what the breakout period will be, but Iran will have nuclear weapons. It's just a question of when they will have them.
So it's really a sham legacy.
It's a sham legacy.
What can the United States Senate do short of 2016 to derail this dangerous development?
There is a bipartisan group in the Congress led by Menendez, a Democrat, as well as a number of Republicans, including McCain, who are deeply concerned about what this treaty is and are trying very hard to get a group together in the Congress to deal specifically with what the contours of this arrangement might be. And as I've suggested before, this is a sham deal. This is unquestionably a sham deal. It may be his legacy, but it's not a legacy that has any benefits for the United States or for the region. And it's not at all surprising that you are starting to see the emergence of a Sunni condominium, very much concerned about what an Iran with nuclear weapons will be. And I'm referring, of course, to Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, and Jordan, now trying to combine their military assets in a way that would offset whatever imperial aspirations exist with Iran.
we're running out of time. Unfortunately, you have so much knowledge to impart to us. But of course, this leaves Israel in the worst situation of all. So we're going to have you back soon to discuss what Friends of Israel should be doing about this. Next, Newsmax Deputy Health Editor Rob Williams with the Closing Bell Report. Thank you so much, Herb, for joining us. This is Betsy McCoy standing in for Steve Malzberg.